Hi, I'm Matt Royer with Penn State Extension, and I serve as the local project coordinator for the Conewago Creek Initiative. The Conewago Creek Initiative is a multi-partner effort in a single watershed in south central Pennsylvania, the Conewago Creek watershed in parts of Dauphin, Lebanon, and Lancaster counties. It's partners working together to increase awareness and outreach of conservation practices to improve water quality in a single watershed, and to get all the farmers and landowners on board in that watershed to adopt improved land management practices that will help ensure a healthy, clean stream and productive farms, and ultimately help to do our part to clean the Chesapeake Bay. Ecosystem services are the benefits of conservation practices that the environment supplies for all of us. What this video is going to do is we're going to explore ecosystem services in the Conewago watershed by going out and meeting some farmers and other landowners and partners in and around the Conewago who have installed best management practices on their farms, and those best management practices provide those ecosystem services benefits.
I'm Larry Coble, and we're here at the Hershey Meadows Restoration Project along the Conewago Creek in Lancaster and Dauphin counties. When we look at the work that's been done here on the Hershey Meadows site, we're looking at a project that undertook restoration of former farmland that was abandoned some years ago and has an impaired creek running through it, the Conewago Creek. That creek is impaired by sediment and nutrients, and also had very high creek banks in this section of the stream. The work encompassed some stream bank renovations, the installation of some wetlands, and the reconnecting of existing wetlands to the stream and the floodplain. When we took a look at this project through mostly the Tri-County Conewago Creek Association at the time, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, with two associates, and the Pennsylvania Game Commission, we looked at this land and saw some of the features that existed here already. There were existing wetlands, and there were some interesting wildlife species here. There were several interesting birds nesting in the meadows itself, and there were freshwater mussels in the creek, and several of them are listed as species of concern in Pennsylvania. And pretty much as soon as areas were made wet again and left undisturbed, a lot of sedges, rushes, certain wildflowers, and other plants immediately were established within the first year. And by the end of the first year, we saw migrating snow geese stopping here, over 1,000 of them, spent about a month here in March of 2011. And associated with that, we saw bald eagles coming into the area immediately. So some of the benefits are pretty quick. As time goes by, the shading from the woods will help to cool that water, keep the dissolved oxygen levels high, and maybe maintain the habitat for those fish, and also make it maybe better for some of the headwaters, cool water fish, to make their way into the main stream here. While it won't probably change the classification of the stream from warm water to cool water at any time, it will improve the situation for the fish that are here and increase the biomass and the macroinvertebrate community. In addition to the wildlife benefits, of course, there's benefits to the water quality and to the water supply. A lot of the watershed sheds the water, and when it rains you have a lot of sheet runoff, and that water runs into the stream. And although there's not a lot of urban development here, we get some stormwater effects and some erosion in the stream from that. Projects like this mimic or restore the function that was originally here, and that is to put most of what falls on the ground as rain into the ground and not to run it off or evaporate it.
This project is a Partners for Fish and Wildlife project in cooperation with a multitude of partners. It was funded through NRCS and the Farm Bill programs. Fish and Boat Commission was also involved. And when landowners have streams that are in degraded condition, they can contact our office to get in touch with us to see if we can't restore some of the habitat and functional value back in the stream. What happened here was the stream was over-widened in sections, and there was very little fish habitat, a lot of silt in the middle of the stream, and also some very sharp bends that had vertical banks and were subject of a lot of erosion. that was putting sediment into the system and moving on down towards the Chesapeake Bay. So the fix is you simply come in and look at the profile of the stream and make some decisions based on science, what's best for the stream and the hydraulics of that system. And it generally involves putting rock veins in, log veins, mud sills, hardening the banks with different structures to try and put the stream back into the middle where it can effectively carry the bed load, provide fish habitat, and of course some wildlife habitat along the fringes with seeding and so forth. Historically, this was an agricultural farm, had lots of livestock here. Livestock had unlimited access to the stream. So the first step in the process was to eliminate that livestock access by putting up a fence that you can see behind me. By putting up that fence, it provides a riparian buffer of habitat adjacent to the stream, which serves a variety of functions: wildlife habitat, nesting habitat for birds and waterfowl. It also provides that sedimentation and flood relief issue in a vegetated system. It decreases the energy of the floodwaters. So those were the first immediate effects. And then finally, the last habitat aspect to come back is the actual fish habitat with the structures themselves. These structures are configured and designed to provide the maximum value for fish habitat. With most of our projects, the effects are rather immediate and dramatic. I mean, once you get the cattle out of that stream and establish a riparian buffer and plant it, the herbaceous plants obviously come in first, and that's an immediate effect. In areas where you're planting a riparian buffer with trees, obviously you have years before those trees get to sufficient size to provide shading, which is a thermal benefit to the stream. But by and large, most of our structures have a pretty immediate positive effect on the stream and the communities. And the reports were here the spring after we put these structures in, there were quite a few anglers who were very pleased at the structures that were put in here and the holding capacity the stream had for fish.
My name is Frank Stoltzfus. I'm the farm operations manager here at Masonic Village Farm in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. And our goal is to have the farm better than it is now in 100 years from now. So it's really simple. Save water, save soil, and make the farm better. To give you an overview of the BMPs that Masonic Village Farm implements is not difficult because we use them all the time. We start with stream bank fencing. We have riparian buffers that are at the creeks. All of our streams are fenced off, no matter how big or how small. So that's a big one. We have stream crossings that were built according to NRCS specifications. So any place our cattle cross the creek, they go across on a walkway that's concrete, and we enter in and exit the stream on concrete, so we're not washing the banks. It's all fenced off. We have extensive laneways that we use for the cattle. Any high traffic area is designated, and we fence that pretty tightly, and that's how we move cattle.
Hi, I'm Steve McMahon, the herdsman here at the Masonic Village Farm. We're a purebred shorthorn breeder first. We calve out 125 cows in the spring, shorthorn cattle and crossbred Angus shorthorn crossbred cattle. The benefits from these best management practices is that we have a healthier, happier group of cows that will produce us a better calf crop, is what we can generally see from it. They're getting fresh grass more often through the year by rotating to different paddocks, and they get good regrowth on those paddocks. When they come back around again, they have a higher protein grass. They produce more milk, grow me a better calf, which I can market in the fall of the year.
So at the farm scale, one of the things that happens is there's a lot of soil that's managed. The farmers that are choosing to do no-till and cover crops have really significantly increased the value of ecosystem services for nitrogen, cycling through the soil and retention of nitrogen in the soil for their next crop. In many cases, they've diminished the potential for phosphorus and sediments to run off to local streams. Those ecosystem services are really critical for both the Conewago and its water quality, as well as for the Chesapeake Bay on the whole.
Another practice we do here at the Masonic Village is the cover cropping of all our croplands with cover rye. We grow some seed rye, we save that seed, and then we'll no-till that all our crop fields with rye. I can utilize that in the fall of the year as an additional grazing source. I run groups of cows when they're in their lowest maintenance mode of nutrition right onto that 6 or 8 inches of ryegrass that's grown up in the fall of the year, usually in November and December, and they can get an additional couple of weeks of grazing from that cover. I often can do it again in the springtime of the next year. We can utilize crop residues or that cover crop as an additional source of nutrition for the cattle to extend my growing season and conserve my hay crop.
Hi, I'm Timothy Hoover, and I work with the Milton Hershey School's Environmental Education Program. As part of my job, we help teachers develop outdoor education activities, and we also maintain approximately 200 acres as wildlife habitat. A major portion of that wildlife habitat is devoted to warm season grass meadows. Native grass meadows are ecosystems that are based on a group of grasses called warm season grasses. The warm season grasses make most of their growth between June and September. They get to be fairly tall. They can be 4 to 6 feet tall, and in doing that they provide a lot of wildlife habitat. Their height leads to having low areas on the ground where ground nesting birds, shrub nesting birds have a room to move. Lots of rodents live in these areas, and those things form the building blocks of food webs. Other services the meadows provide are excellent in an area such as this, which is directly adjacent to a stream. One, they catch a large amount of water during a rain event. The root systems in these things are incredibly deep, probably 6 to 8 feet down into the ground in some cases, with the potential, as they build soil around themselves, to stretch as far as 16 feet down into the ground, which is really remarkable. When it rains, there are also a variety of different root systems, some of them wide and spreading, others deep and taprooty, and this variety of areas catches all of the rainwater that falls during a rain event. You can come in here shortly after a flood, and within days the ground isn't muddy afterward. The plants act as a gigantic sponge to catch rainwater. With that, chemicals from the lawn care that are running off the landscape also get caught and held in this area, rather than going directly into the streams. These areas also are, as mentioned earlier, significant in controlling floods, in controlling runoff, in controlling water, cleaning it as it gets to the streams. Ideally, the water doesn't get to the streams, but is fed to underground aquifers by these systems, which later release clean water into the streams. I don't think a lot of people understand that the natural ecosystems we have function to do things. A turfgrass lawn, for instance, is simply there to be a turfgrass lawn. It doesn't provide habitat for anything. What it does provide habitat for might be chinch bugs, sod webworms, Japanese beetle grubs. If those things show up, we attempt to kill them. These meadows, on the other hand, are open to a very wide diversity of insects, mammals, birds, all of which help the ecosystem. Another of the ecosystem services provided by meadows is that of pollinator habitat. With the decline of honeybees due to colony collapse, vegetable gardens, orchards, and other horticultural plantings rely upon pollinators other than the honeybee. These systems can provide a place for those pollinators to live.
My name is Ron Kopp. I'm a partner here in Stony Lawn Farms with my brother and Jay and my nephew Adam. We're currently farming about 800 acres under no-till practices here. The best management practice of crop terrace involves a system of cuts and fills where you make actually a berm that is at least a foot deep by maybe 15 or 20 feet wide. And that basically stops the flow of the water coming off the hillside, gets into that channel, that terrace, and then at that point it is transferred to the end of the field and dumped into a waterway. We've found that we can farm some of our steeper slopes here, continuous crops from one top of the hill to the bottom by having the terraces in place. Since we instituted using the crop terraces, we found a lot less soil loss on our steeper slopes here, and we've been able to increase productivity on that same land because of the terraces being there, helping the soil loss, reduce the soil loss on those fields. Erosion control from the terraces have been significant because here again we have slopes here on this farm that go up to 12 to 15%. Some of them 12 to 15% slopes are now being continuously farmed under no-till conditions with the terraces in place, and erosion has been able to meet our soil loss target.
Historically, we as a society have failed to place a value on the ecosystem services that these conservation practices provide for us. But luckily, we're starting to see the economic markets recognize that there is a value to these, and there are opportunities, financial opportunities for farmers and other landowners to take advantage of to help install and promote these conservation practices. And there are really three different types of financial or payment systems that are out there that farmers can take advantage of. One is a traditional cost share program. Two would be a land retirement program. And three would be essentially an environmental markets opportunity. So the first of those, a cost share program, really operates in a very traditional sense where usually the federal government or the state government, a combination of those, will provide a financial incentive and dollars to help the farmer install conservation practices on their lands. These programs are available through the federal Farm Bill and through other programs to promote clean water and healthy landscapes. They are usually administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resource and Conservation Service, or NRCS, or by your local county conservation district. And you can call your county NRCS office or your county conservation district to learn more about their cost-sharing programs. The second type of payment system is a land retirement type of system. And this is a payment system where farmers are paid dollars to take land out of production. It might be land that traditionally is maybe a little wet and challenging to farm or to pasture, and it could be an area where a wetland restoration or the establishment of a riparian buffer would be a very high quality use for that part of the farm. And land retirement systems such as the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program as well as the Wetland Reserve Program will actually pay the landowner to take that land out of farm production and put it into a better conservation use. The third type of system is the environmental markets opportunity. And this provides the landowner with a value that's associated with the conservation practice they are installing. And that value can then be traded on an open market, just like any other commodity, and the farmer can receive payment for the ecosystem services and the conservation practice they have put in place through that environmental market. A good example of this is the nutrient trading program, which we have here in Pennsylvania in order to more cost effectively meet our Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction obligations. So really, to learn more about these payment opportunities, you should contact your county conservation district or your county NRCS office, and they can help teach you more about the programs and the financial incentives that are available to install good conservation practices on your farm. So hopefully this video has provided you with information on a variety of conservation practices that you might be interested in installing on your own farms, on your own land, and also teach you a little bit about the benefits that those practices have, not only for your farm and your operation, but really for all of us in terms of clean water, clean air, and healthy landscapes. For more information on the Conewago Initiative and on conservation practices that help protect our land, water, and healthy communities, visit our website at conewagoinitiative.net.